Real-time visibility is about getting the right information to the right people at the right time to drive work forward. In this session, we'll cover how to use reports and dashboards to effectively communicate to stakeholders and enable data-driven decision-making. This session may contain forward-looking statements, and any trademarks in this presentation are not endorsements. Hi, everybody. I'm Cicero. I'm one of the readiness managers here at Smartsheet, and today we're going to talk about reports and dashboards. We're going to talk about what a report is and how to build one, and what the different types of reports are, and how we bring that together into dashboards and portals to bring that information to your stakeholders. That's what we're going to be working toward today. So with that said, let's get right into the product. Through this whole session, keep in mind that we have the Smartsheet team available, ready to answer any of your questions in our chat window. So please take advantage of that. But now let's start in the beginning. We're here at the workspace. The first thing we want to look at is where are we trying to get to? What is the final product? And that being the dashboard. The dashboard is where all of the metrics, all of the information comes to our stakeholders. The areas that I want to point out specifically right now, because that's where we're going to be working with, is the report here at the bottom. It is the grouping of all of the opportunities for this sale. And if you want to practice with this, I'm actually using a template from our Solution Center. It's the Sales Pipeline Tracking and Reporting template set. That's what I'm going to be beginning with. But you see that we have metrics in here. There's all other types of information. We'll come back to that to talk about each of these pieces. But this gives you an overview of how we start. And whenever you're going to be doing these, when you're going to be you want to create a dashboard, draw it. Draw that out so that you know what it is you're actually trying to make. If you want a report, now you see that. Oh, I've got to make a report on this or from these sheets. I need to grab these metrics. Having that as kind of your base plan lets you create this much, much, much faster. So always think about that. Draw that out first, whiteboard, paper, whatever works for you. With that said, this is where we're going to get to. So we go back to the start, and that being the workspace. In our workspace, what you see is there are actually 3 different sheets for our regions within the sales pipeline. We have a central, we have an east, we have a west. And if we look at one of those, this happens to be the central region. We're collecting that information. We could be collecting that information via form or input from a different report, however you gather that information, but this is coming in. And within the sheet itself, there's a lot of information. And we might want to be summarizing that here on the sheet. And a great place to do that is in the right-hand side where you see summary, and it's our sheet summary. The sheet summary is an area that you can have up to 200 different fields. Each of those fields can be a drop-down. It could be a symbol. It could be a metric, like you see the example that I have here. So I'm able to get that information summarized here on this, in this sheet summary, that we could actually use within a report. And I'll talk about that in just a second. So we have the individual sheets, and those individual sheets coming together are here now. But at this point, we think, wait a minute, I need to be bringing that information into one spot. I don't want to have to look at all 3 of those sheets. How do I see it all? With a report. A report allows you to easily answer key business questions and manage work across multiple sheets. They are like a high-level filter that are updated in real time, and they're bi-directional. So updates on the sheet are reflected on the report, And changes on the report can be reflected onto the sheet, all back and forth, all real time. And so that's what we're going to be building first. And remember, that was part of what was on the dashboard. I right-click and I select report. Three things, or two things really. A name, I want to name this report however I'm going to do. I'll call this one current opportunities. I've got one pre-made, so it's a little easier for us. But then I decide what type of report am I looking for. We have row reports, which are from the individual rows of each sheet that match the filter criteria we're going to talk about, or we use the sheet summary reports. Those are using the information on those sheet summaries, like I just showed you on the central sheet. Let's use a row report because that one's checked. And if I said, okay, at that point now that report is sitting here, and this is how a report begins. We always start with the sheet name and the primary column in this report. The primary column will be whatever you might have renamed that primary column on your sheet or sheets. So keep that in mind, and you can easily change that by double clicking on it and changing the name to whatever it is. It might be task name or sales opportunity, for instance, in this case. Then you're able to filter this. What do I want to see? And you start with the sheets. What source sheets do you want to do? You decide on the columns. What columns do I want to add to this report? How do I filter this report? How am I limiting what I'm viewing on this report? And then you can also group and summarize the information. With that said, let's go to one that I already have made right here, the current opportunities report. The current opportunities report you can see that it is a report because it has that filter on the top. It looks a lot like a grid, but it's not. And you can see that I have selected 3 sheets to be part of this. The columns for that I want to be visible. I've identified filters so that all those things that are closed, for instance, I'm not going to see on this. And once I have that now, I can then use that on the dashboard here at the bottom. Okay? And I'm going to show you how to use the widgets to bring that in just a little bit. So keep that in mind. We've used the report to filter the information across 3 different sheets so that we can now raise that up to the stakeholders, whether those are Cs or managers or whoever, right here on this dashboard. Now, we also notice that there are a number of different metrics on here. And how do I bring those metrics into my dashboard? The way that we can do that is by using a sheet. Now, this is just a normal sheet that I started with, but that sheet actually I'm going to use for a very specific purpose. And that very specific purpose is metrics. And I always name it the metric sheet of some sort or another so that I know. But the reason I'm doing this is so that it is a one-stop place for me to get the metrics for my dashboard so that they're always right there. That's really the cool part about this. And here we go. Look at the first one. What I'm looking at here is I want to know how many opportunities each of the salespeople have across each region. And you see that, for instance, Bruce here has 3. Well, how did I get that? How did I bring that information over? I did it using a cross-sheet formula. This formula is using count and a count if. And that count if is looking at Bruce here, and it says, go match that from the central range. And look at that sheet and count all of those from Bruce and put that here. And I go down and I could pick another one for Hero, and you see that it's going across there. So the metric sheet leverages cross-sheet formulas to bring that information across so that I have it here, and now I can do things with it. And you also should notice, and I think it's kind of obvious because it's there, is the colors. I colored those areas so that it's easy for me and it's easy for anybody else that might use this metric sheet to see where those things are. I put a little legend here that just says which region they're in. And so the whole thing is very clear so that if when I'm looking at it, I can pick and I'm able to pass this to somebody else, and it's very clean and easy for them to see. You'll notice that I've also got, for instance, here I've got one. It's a sum where I'm actually summing the range of the opportunities from that other sheet. All of these metrics are leveraging those cross-sheet formulas. I love those cross-sheet formulas. Really, really, really handy. So we create those metrics here, the metric sheet. And now we get to the dashboard. The dashboard is set up, and if we look at creating a dashboard, I'm here in my workspace. I go down and I say create dashboard portal. Well, what's the difference? A dashboard / portal. A dashboard is usually one that shows metrics and charts. A portal takes you places. Now, the cool part about Smartsheet is we can do both. And we can have dashboards that do both at the same time. So you can decide how you want to call that based on your organization and how you name things. But when I do create that, and I'll just use this to start, we see that it's a blank slate. And we're going to be using widgets to take and create these things for us. So I'm going to go to the one that's already done. And I'm going to, on the left-hand side, click Edit and Add Widget. Now, before I click Add Widget, I want you to see that all of these individual things that are on this screen are individual widgets. And again, remember, this is a template, so you can go to that template and do just what I'm doing, right, to see this. But each of these widgets comes from these 8 different kinds. We have 8 widgets. Metric widgets, when I click on a metric widget, it says add data. Where do you want to get this data from? I'm going to say from my metric sheet. And when I do that, this is why I color it. So it's easy to grab. I can pick just what I want, and then I can have that right here in front of me. I can move those around however I wish. I can add charts the same way. That's why I bring that over from the metric sheet. Shortcuts. Shortcuts are over here on the right-hand side. Those are links to other things. They could be other sheets. They could be other places, websites, whatever it is you want to have for those people to go to those other things. It could be other dashboards too. The report. Using the report widget, I would just go and grab the report that we just created. And you see how that would come in. And I can size those. I can bring that around. You also see I have image widgets, text widgets, title widgets, and the web content widget. Oh, what's that? I can embed a Smartsheet form right on my dashboard. I could put in a YouTube video or a Google slide deck, for instance. All of those things are possible within that dashboard so that we're actually able to create this central area for our stakeholders. All the important things are right here. So with that said, let's go back to the slide deck and bring this together. We looked at reports and how we created those as part of that integral dashboard. And when we do that, we talk about that the report is a way to consolidate information and see just what you need to see in those underlying sheets, and they're bi-directional. We looked at the difference between the row report and the sheet summary report. Talked about both of those pieces. And then we looked at the dashboards, bringing real-time dynamic information to your stakeholders. And you have 8 different kinds of widgets to be able to build whatever it is you need for your consumers to give them the information to make the right choices at the right time. That's what we just talked about. If you want to go deeper, please look at our resources. We've got the Smartsheet help, training, we've got the Smartsheet community, and the Engage Brain Boost. All ways to get more information to take it to the next level. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for using Smartsheet, and do dynamic work.